Did you know that a tiny ant can carry up to 50 times its own body weight? That means if you had the same relative strength as an ant, you could casually lift an entire bus over your head. Just pick it up like it was nothing. But how? How can a creature this small possess what looks like superhuman strength? What is inside an ant's body that makes it so much stronger than us relative to its size? Today, we're going to uncover the secret of this tiny creature. We'll enter the strange world of ants, discover how they live, see some terrifying species up close, and finally understand the physical law behind their unbelievable strength. But first, we need to understand the ant itself. This is an ant. Yes, I drew it myself. Honestly, I think I may have discovered a hidden artistic talent. An ant's body is divided into 3 main sections: the head, the thorax, and the abdomen. The head contains most of the tools the ant uses to interact with the world. First, it has 2 antennae. Ants use them to touch objects, detect movement, smell their surroundings, and communicate with other ants. They also have eyes, although many ants don't see the world as clearly as we do. And then we have the jaws. Ant jaws are used to cut food, defend the colony, fight enemies, and carry objects. Later, you'll see just how unbelievably powerful some of these jaws can be. Next comes the thorax. This is where the ant's 6 legs are attached. Some species also grow wings during certain stages of their lives. Finally, we have the abdomen. This contains the digestive system and many of the internal organs that keep the ant alive. It is also connected to one of the strangest parts of ant society: pheromones. Pheromones are chemical signals ants use to communicate. An ant can use them to warn the colony about danger, mark a path toward food, identify members of its colony, or even signal that it needs help. Ants don't need to stand around having a conversation. They basically leave invisible chemical messages for each other. But I have a question for you. Where do you think an ant breathes from? It doesn't have a nose, so maybe it breathes through 2 tiny holes somewhere? Maybe it has microscopic nostrils. Animals sometimes breathe through very strange places, so I'm keeping my answer to myself. Either through its nose or through its antennae. Like any normal creature, probably through its nose. It must have 2 little dots somewhere. One here and one here. Those aren't nostrils. And no, it's not breathing from the place you're thinking about. Ants breathe through tiny openings located along the sides of their thorax and abdomen. These openings are called spiracles. The spiracles connect to a network of tiny air tubes inside the ant's body. Oxygen enters directly through these tubes and travels to the ant's tissues. No lungs, no breathing through the mouth. Just tiny holes and an internal network of air pipes. And that works because ants are extremely small. As you probably know, ants live inside colonies. But an ant colony isn't just a random hole in the ground. It can be a huge, complicated network of tunnels, chambers, nurseries, food storage rooms, and defensive areas. Inside the colony, ants have different roles. First, we have the small worker ants. When they are younger, many workers remain inside the nest. They care for the larva, feed the queen, clean the colony, and maintain the chambers. They're basically the nurses and maintenance workers of the colony. As some workers grow older, they begin taking on more dangerous jobs. They protect the nest, search for food, explore unfamiliar areas, and become the colony's first line of defense. Then we have the soldiers. Soldier ants often have much larger heads and much stronger jaws than ordinary workers. Their main purpose is defense. They fight enemies, protect entrances, and take part in battles against other colonies. These are the warriors of the ant world. And then we have the queen. The queen's main job is reproduction. She can produce huge numbers of eggs, which later develop into the different members of the colony. Now, you may be asking, if the workers are female, the soldiers are female, and the queen is obviously female, where are the males? Well, how do I explain this politely? The male ant usually has one major mission in life: mate with a queen. That's basically it. After mating, the male often dies soon afterward. He doesn't search for food, he doesn't defend the colony, he doesn't raise the young. He arrives, completes his one mission and disappears. Some of you are probably thinking, that doesn't sound fair. But wait, because life inside an ant colony is about to become much darker. When we talk about the strength of ants, there are two different types of strength we need to discuss. First, their mental and social toughness. Then, their physical strength. Imagine two ant colonies living near the same source of food. Do you think they divide it peacefully? Half for this colony and half for the other? Of course not. Depending on the species, they may go to war. Thousands of ants can attack one another, biting, cutting, spraying chemicals, and trying to overwhelm the opposing colony. The winning colony takes control of the territory and resources. Many ants from the losing colony were killed. In some species, the survivors, or their developing young, may even be captured and forced to work inside the winning colony. Yes, some ants effectively enslave other ants. Imagine being part of a society this intense, and one day you decide you don't feel like working. You're tired. You want to relax. That may not end well. Ant colonies depend on cooperation, and ants that fail to perform necessary tasks can sometimes be attacked, removed, or isolated from the group. It's basically the ant version of being sent to prison. But despite how violent ants can be, they can also be incredibly self-sacrificing, although even their kindness is somehow violent. Some ants will sacrifice their own bodies to protect the colony. For example, if an entrance needs to be blocked so a predator cannot enter, certain ants may position their bodies inside the opening like a living shield. They stay there, sealing the entrance and protecting everyone behind them. Some species take this even further. Certain ants can rupture their own bodies and release sticky or toxic chemicals onto an enemy. They literally explode to protect the colony. Other species create living bridges. If the colony needs to cross a gap, stream, or dangerous surface, some ants connect their bodies together. The rest of the colony then walks across them. So yes, ants can be helpful and caring. They're just helpful in the most aggressive way possible. There is no joking around inside an ant colony. Now it's time to talk about their physical strength. But before explaining the physics behind it, I wanted to see these animals up close. How do you feel knowing we're about to release ants into your home? I'm extremely excited and happy. The world of ants is more incredible than most people imagine. Every day they show me something new. Are you ready?
The ants with the larger heads are usually the soldiers. Look at this one. That isn't a queen. It's a warrior. And its head is enormous. Oh my God. We had to use a powerful light so the macro camera could capture these tiny creatures properly. Now it was time to test how aggressive they really were with a cockroach. Let's bring out the cockroach. Can we choose its size? What is that? That's not a cockroach, that's a dinosaur. Look at the size of this thing. Where do I put it? Place it here.
At first, the cockroach moved around the container while the ants watched it. Then it made the biggest mistake possible. It moved toward the colony entrance. It went inside. That is the worst decision it could have made. Look at the attack. Look at them. I honestly hope no one ever finds themselves in the position of that cockroach. It has officially been destroyed. So these are your aggressive warriors? What would happen if several of them reached my hand? They could cut into the skin. They cut flesh? All right. You have officially proven that they're aggressive. And somehow, the next species was even stranger. First, we need to disturb them slightly. What? Wait, it's looking at me. Yes, it saw you. It can actually see me? Watch its head. It follows your movement. This ant would turn its face toward you and stare. It didn't feel like it was simply reacting. It looked like it was thinking. Every time I moved, its head followed me. Any sudden movement can make it attack.
When it moves its abdomen like that, it's warning you. But its vision wasn't the strangest thing about it. It could also jump, and not a small jump. 1 second it was standing there, and the next it disappeared. What just happened? Did it teleport? Is this an ant or a character from Naruto? Where did it go? And apparently,
The sting of this species can cause pain and irritation that may last for a long time. So not only can it see you and follow your movements, it can suddenly launch itself at you. Perfect! Exactly what we needed. The final species we saw had something I had never seen before. Its jaws looked like a pair of traps, and they closed at an unbelievable speed. All right, let's see the jaws. Did you hear that? Pay attention here, because this part is slightly complicated. But once you understand it, the ant's strength will suddenly make sense. Imagine a muscle. Muscles are made from fibers that pull and contract. The thicker a muscle becomes, the more fibers it can contain, and the more force it can produce. Muscle strength generally depends on its cross-sectional area. Area increases according to the square of an animal's length. For example, if you scale an animal so that it becomes twice as long, the cross-sectional area of its muscles becomes roughly 4 times larger. So its muscles can produce around 4 times as much force. So far, that sounds great. But there is a problem. Body volume, and therefore body mass, doesn't increase according to the square. It increases according to the cube. Imagine a cube measuring 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter. Now double every dimension. It becomes 2 centimeters by 2 centimeters by 2 centimeters. It may only be twice as long in each direction, but its total volume becomes 8 times larger. So when an animal grows larger, its body weight increases much faster than the strength of its muscles. That is the square cube law, and you can see its effects everywhere. You are much stronger than a squirrel in terms of total force. Your muscles are larger, but compared with its own body size, a squirrel can jump much farther than you. Compare the jump of a rabbit with the movement of an elephant. But an elephant cannot jump in the same way smaller animals can. An elephant may be able to carry a significant amount of weight, but it cannot carry 50 times its own body weight. An ant can. Not because an individual ant muscle contains some magical substance, and not because ants secretly spend every morning at the gym. It happens because when an animal becomes smaller, its weight decreases much faster than the strength of its muscles. An ant's muscles are weaker than yours in absolute terms. Obviously, you could defeat one ant, I hope. But relative to the tiny weight those muscles need to move, they are unbelievably powerful. Imagine that humans were suddenly shrunk down to the size of ants. Let's ignore all the problems involving our hearts, organs, temperature, and breathing, and assume our bodies somehow adapted perfectly. Relative to our body size, we would become much better jumpers. We could leap several times our own height and move with what would look like superhuman ability. It would feel like living inside a video game. That is the real secret behind the ant's unbelievable strength. Not magic, not a hidden superpower, physics. The ant takes advantage of a rule that controls the bodies of every living creature on Earth. So the next time you see a tiny ant carrying a piece of food many times larger than itself, remember, you are looking at one of nature's smallest demonstrations of how powerful physics can be. And now I want to know, did you already know ants were this strong? And would you rather have the relative strength of an ant or the ability to jump like one? Tell me in the comments.